You know the sound, the steady, hypnotic tick-tock of a grandfather clock. And you know the rhyme that goes with it. Hickory, dickory, dock. It feels safe, nostalgic, simple. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Forget the sweet story about a mouse. This rhyme is actually a code. Depending on who you ask, the code means something entirely different. Today, we investigate 3 competing theories to finally explain the hidden code in Hickory Dickory Dock. First, let's remember the story we all think we know. Hickory Dickory Dock. The mouse ran up the clock. The clock struck 1, the mouse ran down Hickory Dickory Dock. The words are almost meaningless, but the rhythm is perfect. It's a lullaby, a playground chant, a comforting piece of sonic wallpaper from our collective childhood. Its first known appearance in print was in Tommy Thumb's Pretty Songbook, published in London all the way back in 1744. For nearly 300 years, we've been reciting these same strange words. And that longevity is precisely what makes it so mysterious. The simplicity is a mask. Once you start asking questions, the whole nursery rhyme begins to unravel. Why those specific words? Hickory, dickory, dock. Why a mouse? Of all the animals in the world, why choose a tiny rodent for this starring role? And most importantly, why does the clock strike 1? Have you ever wondered about that? 1 o'clock is not a particularly dramatic or significant time. It's not midnight, not the crack of dawn. It's just 1. These aren't random details. They are clues, and they don't point to a cozy nursery. They point to the misty hills of ancient Britain, to the stone walls of a medieval cathedral, and to the treacherous halls of 17th century English politics. To find the truth, we have to follow each of these trails. Our investigation begins now. Our first theory takes us far from clocks and mice, out into the remote fells of northern England. Here, for centuries, shepherds had a unique and musical way of counting their sheep. It wasn't 1, 2, 3. It was a rhyming system, a linguistic fossil left over from a lost language. This system is known as Yan Tan Tethera, and it comes from ancient Brythonic Celtic languages like Cumbric, which were spoken in these areas long before modern English took over. These counting systems were designed to be memorable. They had a natural rhythm that made them easy to chant while scanning a sprawling flock. The words were not just numbers, they were sounds, part of an oral tradition passed down from one generation of shepherds to the next. Now, listen closely to the numbers used by shepherds in Westmoreland, a historic county in this very region. The sequence for 8, 9, and 10 went like this. Hevra, Devra, Dick. Does that sound familiar? Say it with me. Hevera, Devera, Dick. Hickory, dickory, dock. The phonetic echo is undeniable. According to this theory, the nursery rhyme has been miscategorized. It's actually a fragment of an ancient counting system. The words only sound like nonsense to us. They are actually the ghosts of a language that has been extinct for centuries. The rhyme was a tool, a way for non-literate people to remember and use numbers. Just like eeny, meeny, miny, mo, it was a counting out rhyme, used perhaps by children in games, or even by knitters counting their stitches. It's a powerful idea. The thought that a simple nursery rhyme contains the last whispers of a dead language is exactly the kind of secret history we search for. It transforms the rhyme from a silly ditty into a profound act of cultural preservation. The shepherds may be gone, their language may be lost, but this small piece of it survived, hiding in plain sight in the mouths of children. But, as compelling as this theory is, it has a glaring weakness. A problem so significant, it threatens to unravel the entire explanation. If Hickory Dickory Dock means 8, 9, 10, then the rhyme is a countdown. So why, immediately after counting to 10, does the clock strike 1? The narrative makes no sense. The story of the mouse and the clock seems completely disconnected from the supposed counting words that begin the rhyme. If the goal was to teach counting, why start at 8? And why abandon the counting system for a completely unrelated story? Furthermore, there is a lesser-known second verse that complicates things even more. It goes, "Dickory, dickory, dare. The pig flew up in the air. The man in brown soon brought him down. Dickory, dickory, dare." This verse has absolutely no connection to the shepherd's counting system. It seems to be pure narrative, continuing the style of the first verse's story, not its opening chant. The linguistic link is strong, but the logical gaps are too large to ignore. The words might come from the shepherds, but the story must come from somewhere else. But what if the rhyme isn't about counting at all? What if it's describing a real mouse and a real clock? For our second theory, we travel south to the city of Exeter to its magnificent Gothic cathedral. Inside this ancient building is a wonder of medieval engineering, the Exeter astronomical clock. Installed around 1484, other than telling the hour, it also shows the phases of the moon and the position of the sun. It is a complex, beautiful machine. And, according to this theory, it is the clock from the rhyme. In the 15th and 16th centuries, the gears of a complex machine like this would have been lubricated with animal fat. And what does animal fat attract? Mice and rats. For the clock to function, the cathedral had to solve its rodent problem. And their solution was timeless. They hired a cat. This isn't just speculation, because we have financial records. Exeter Cathedral's archives show payments being made to a cat keeper as early as the 14th century. The resident mouser was on the payroll, earning a penny a week to protect the clock's delicate mechanism from damage. But the most incredible piece of evidence is right there in the wall. Beneath the stunning astronomical clock is a wooden door that gives access to the clockworks. And at the bottom of that door is a small, round hole. Cathedral records from 1598 show that the bishop paid carpenters to cut this hole specifically for the cat. It is widely believed to be the world's oldest cat flap. So, picture the scene. Mice, drawn by the scent of lubricant, would scurry up the clock's internal ropes and mechanisms. The cathedral cat, using its custom-built door, would enter the clock housing to hunt them. And every hour, the clock's bell would chime, sending any surviving mice scattering. The mouse ran up the clock. The clock struck 1, the mouse ran down. In this light, the rhyme becomes a simple, literal description of daily life at Exeter Cathedral. A story so common that it became a little song, a piece of local folklore that eventually spread across the country. It's a charming, tangible explanation, complete with historical records and even physical evidence. But just like our first theory, this one has its own problems. The connection between Hickory Dickory Dock and the Exeter clock is a modern one. There are no historical documents before the 21st century that link the two. When the rhyme was first published in the 1700s, the illustrations that came with it didn't show a grand, unique astronomical clock. They showed a simple, common long case clock, a grandfather clock. The story is wonderful and the cat flap is real, but the evidence connecting it directly to our rhyme is circumstantial at best. It's a fantastic local legend, but it might just be that, a legend, retrofitted onto an already famous rhyme. A clever cat and a hungry mouse make for a good story. But our final theory suggests the mouse wasn't an animal at all, but a man. And the clock wasn't just telling time. It was counting down the days of a failed ruler. Our final theory plunges us into one of the most turbulent periods in English history, the mid-17th century. The Civil War was over, King Charles I had been executed, and England was a republic, ruled by the stern, iron-willed Lord Protector, Oliver Cromwell. Cromwell was a powerful, polarizing figure. When he died in 1658, he named his son, Richard, as his successor. But Richard Cromwell was nothing like his father. He was gentle, indecisive, and completely unsuited for the brutal politics of the era. He was, by all accounts, a timid man thrust into a role he could not handle. This is where the code reveals itself. The theory argues that Hickory Dickory Dock is a scathing political satire, mocking Richard Cromwell's disastrously short time in power. Let's break it down. Hickory is believed to be a reference to his father, Oliver Cromwell. Old Hickory is a common nickname for someone tough and unyielding, a perfect description of the Lord Protector. Dickory is a diminutive, a slightly mocking version of the name Richard. So the opening line is a comparison. From the mighty oak, Hickory, comes the flimsy sapling, Dickory. The mouse running up the clock is Richard's meek and cautious ascent to the nation's highest office. He scurried into power rather than seizing it. The clock struck 1. This line has nothing to do with 1 o'clock. It actually marks the end of his. He was forced to resign after just 9 months in power. His time was up. And so, the mouse ran down. Richard Cromwell fled from his position, eventually escaping England to live in exile, fearing for his life. The rhyme captures his entire career in 4 simple lines. A timid rise, a brief moment in the spotlight, and a sudden, panicked retreat. The historical context makes this interpretation incredibly compelling. Richard Cromwell was widely ridiculed after his fall. He was given mocking nicknames, the most famous of which was Tumbledown Dick. The image of a man tumbling down from power fits the rhyme's imagery perfectly. From this perspective, it was never really a nursery rhyme at all. It was a political cartoon, set to music. Don't miss the next frame of the cartoon and hit subscribe. But, like all good conspiracies, it lacks a smoking gun. The rhyme first appeared in print in 1744, nearly a century after Richard Cromwell's fall from grace. While political songs and satires often circulate orally for decades before being written down, there is no direct contemporary evidence from the 1600s that links this specific rhyme to the Cromwells. The connection is based on interpretation, not hard proof. So where does that leave us? We have 3 compelling cases: the shepherd's count, the cathedral's mouse, and the political fall of Tumbledown Dick. Which one is the true origin? Perhaps that's the wrong question. It doesn't come from choosing one theory. It comes from realizing that a nursery rhyme can be all of these things at once. Folklore isn't static. It's a living, breathing thing that absorbs new meanings over time. The rhyme's power is its ambiguity. The nonsensical sounds invite us to fill in the blanks, to project our own stories onto its simple frame. Ultimately, Hickory Dickory Dock is so much more than a single code to be cracked. We've seen how a simple rhyme can hide a political secret. But sometimes the most terrifying secrets aren't hidden in history. They're sewn into the button eyes of a doll. In our next investigation, we uncover the secret identity of Coraline's other mother and reveal the ancient soul-eating folklore that explains why she did what she did.